Close your eyes. Forget the gold leaf. Forget the powdered wigs and the perfume of the court. Here, there is only the smell. The damp rot of the Seine River oozes through the limestone walls, thick and suffocating. It mixes with the sharp tang of stale straw and the sweet cloying scent of untreated sickness. In the center of this gloom, a woman sits on a low, splintered stool. She is not wearing the shimmering silks of Versailles. There are no diamonds at her throat. She is draped in a mourning dress of tattered black wool, worn thin by months of friction against stone. It is August 2nd, 1793. To the world, she was once a deity, but in this room, she is merely prisoner 280. The widow Capet. She has just been transferred to the Conciergerie, a place the locals call the Antechamber to the Guillotine. She sits in silence, but she is never alone. Listen. The rhythmic snap of paper on wood. Two gendarmes sit just behind a thin folding screen playing cards. They drink, they gamble, and they watch. Every breath she takes is public property. There is no solitude here. Even when she reaches for the waste bucket in the corner, eyes are fixed upon her back. She walked into this cell a queen. But the French Republic had 76 days to make sure she didn't leave as one. By the end of this story, you will realize the terrifying truth. The guillotine wasn't her punishment. It was her only escape. We do not have to guess at the horror. We do not have to imagine the shadows in the corners of the cell. We have eyes on the inside. Enter Rosalie la Morlière. She is not a politician or a soldier. She is an illiterate maid working in the belly of the prison. While the clerks of the Revolution write their official reports in cold ink, Rosalie records the truth in her memory. She risks the guillotine herself for the smallest acts of defiance. She smuggles in a strip of clean linen to replace the queen's soiled undergarments. She brings a bowl of warm broth to fight the damp that has settled in the prisoner's lungs. In a system designed to strip away dignity, Rosalie is the only thing standing between the woman and total degradation. Think of the Conciergerie not as a prison, but as a death row stripped of sanitation and silence. There's no peace here. The air vibrates with the background noise of the terror. The dragging of chains across stone floors, the weeping of the condemned in the neighboring cells, the distant heavy thud of the tribunal's gavel sealing another fate. Rosalie saw what the history books often skip, the slow, methodical dismantling of a human being. You might ask yourself, why the cruelty? Why deny a dying woman a clean blanket? Why station guards to watch her undress? It is not just hatred, it is strategy. France is terrified. The reign of terror is in full swing, and Maximilian Robespierre knows one universal truth. A starving, frightened mob needs a monster to hunt. And Marie Antoinette is the perfect monster. Forget what you think. You know, the diamond necklace affair? She was a victim of fraud, not a thief. Let them eat cake? She never said it. But in the streets of Paris, facts are irrelevant. The lie is stronger than the truth. Step outside the prison walls for a moment. The air in the streets is hot and thick with paranoia. Can you hear it? The constant low rumble of drums. The sharp clatter of carts on cobblestones. Everyone is hungry. Everyone is watching their neighbor. To them, she is not a mother or a wife. She is the Austrian bitch. She is the foreign virus. If the bread is too expensive, it is her fault. If the army loses a battle, it is her treason. She is the scapegoat for an entire nation's failure. They didn't just want to kill her. They needed to deconstruct her. To kill the queen, they first had to humiliate the woman. Technically, she is 37 years old, but if you stood before her in the flickering candlelight, you would not see a young woman. You would see a ghost of 60. The famous ash-blonde curls that once set the fashion for all of Europe are gone. In their place, shocks of stark, brittle white. Her eyes, once sharp and blue, are clouding over, straining against the gloom of the underground cell. But the visible decay is nothing compared to the hidden agony. Her body is betraying her. She is suffering from severe uterine hemorrhaging, likely advanced cancer or fibroids. She is in constant, cramping pain. Imagine the humiliation. She has only torn rags to manage the flow of blood. And every time she tends to herself, every time she winces or shifts in discomfort, the two guards behind the screen stop their card game. They watch. There is no medical mercy here, only the cold observation of her suffering. Worst of all is the silence. She strains her ears, desperate for the sound of her children. In her memory, she hears their laughter echoing in the gardens of the Tuileries. In reality, the stone walls give her nothing back. They are gone, taken from her arms months ago, reprogrammed to hate her. She was dying from the inside out. But in the darkness of the Conciergerie, a flicker of hope suddenly lit a candle. The monotony breaks. A shadow falls across the threshold. It is not the usual turnkey. It is a man named the Chevalier de Rougeville. He is a ghost from her past life, standing there in the filth. He moves closer. He does not speak. He drops something, a flash of color against the gray stone floor, a single carnation. She stares at it. In this tomb of rot, the scent of the flower is almost violent. She waits for the guards to look away. She snatches it up. Her fingers probe the petals. There, hidden deep inside the bloom, is a scrap of paper, tightly rolled. She unrolls it with trembling hands. It is not a prayer. It is a map. This is the Carnation Plot. For a few breathless hours, the impossible feels real. Gold coins change hands in the dark. A bribe is offered to the heavy-set guard at the door. He takes the coin. He nods. The plan is set. The gate will open. A carriage waits in the fog outside. Her heart hammers against her ribs, loud enough to echo in the small space. She is inches from the river, inches from the air. And then the silence snaps. The guard's nerve fails. Or perhaps his greed was never real. He betrays them. The alarm sounds. The boots come running down the corridor. The door slams shut, and the bolt slides home with a sound like a gunshot. The escape failed, and the punishment for hope was immediate. The security was tightened, and the final psychological torture began. It is October 14th, 1793. The trial begins. The air in the tribunal hall is hot, smelling of unwashed bodies and sour wine. For 15 agonizing hours, the interrogation hammers at her. Questions about budgets, questions about borders, questions about secret letters to Vienna. She answers them all with a quiet, exhausted dignity. Jacques Hébert, the prosecutor, watches her. He is frustrated. He realizes that treason is too dry. It is too political. To get the mob to howl for blood, he needs something else. He needs filth. So he stops the questions. He looks at the jury. And then he says it. He accuses the mother of unnatural acts with her own 8-year-old son, Louis Charles. The words hang in the air like poison gas. The scribes stop writing. The knitting women in the gallery, the tricoteuses who usually cheer for every death sentence, go dead silent. Even here, in the heart of the terror, there are lines you do not cross, They have forced a confused, terrified child to sign a document accusing his own mother of incest. Marie Antoinette does not answer immediately. She looks away. A juror leans forward. "You have not answered the charge, citizen." She turns. The snap of her chair pushing back echoes like a gunshot. For the first time since the trial began, the exhaustion vanishes from her face. She stands up. She looks past the judges. She looks directly at the women in the crowd who hate her. Her voice cracks, not with fear, but with fury. "If I have not answered, it is because nature itself refuses to answer such a charge laid against a mother." She pauses. "I appeal to all mothers in this room." A murmur runs through the crowd. For a split second, the revolution dissolves. She is not a queen. She is not a traitor. She is a mother defending her soul against a monster. They had taken her crown, her freedom, and her health. Now they tried to take her motherhood. But that was the one thing she refused to surrender. It is 4 a.m. The gavel strikes. The verdict is guilty. She returns to the cell for the last time. There is no weeping. She asks for pen and paper. She writes a final letter to her sister-in-law. It is calm, loving, and clear. She folds it. She hands it to the guard. She doesn't know that it will never be delivered. It will sit in a drawer, unread, for 20 years. The sun rises. It is time to dress for the end. She refuses the black mourning gown. Instead, she chooses white, a simple white dress. In France, it is the color of widowed queens. But in this filth, it is a blinding symbol of purity, a final visual defiance against the gray stone walls. Then the door opens. Henri Sanson, the executioner, enters. He is not here to talk. He carries large shears. He instructs her to turn around. She feels the cold steel against the nape of her neck. Snip, snip. Her jagged white hair falls to the floor. Her neck is bare, ready for the machine. She is led out into the courtyard. She expects a closed carriage, the small mercy granted to her husband before his death. She stops. There is no carriage. There is only a tumbril, an open, dirty cart used for common criminals, a plank of wood on wheels. She climbs in. Her hands are bound behind her back. The balance is difficult. The gates open. The roar hits her first. Thousands of people line the Rue Saint-Honoré. They scream at her. They spit. She sits rigid. Her back is a straight line. She stares past the faces, past the hate, fixing her eyes on the rooftops of the city she once ruled. She does not give them the satisfaction of a single tear. They reach the Place de la Révolution. The wooden scaffold looms above the crowd. She climbs the steps. Her legs are weak from the hemorrhaging, but she moves with a steady rhythm. At the top, she stumbles. Her foot lands on the executioner's boot. She stops. She looks at the man who is about to kill her. "Pardon me, sir. I did not do it on purpose." It wasn't just politeness. It was a final assertion of who she was. They could take her life, but they could not take her manners. The blade fell at 12:15 p.m. The roar of the crowd was deafening, but the silence that followed from Marie Antoinette was finally peaceful. The show is over. The crowd disperses to find wine and bread, but for the body left behind, the indignity continues. Her remains are not taken to a royal crypt. They are thrown onto a cart and wheeled to the Madeleine Cemetery. There is no service, no prayer. She is tossed into a mass grave, her head placed between her legs. The goal is not just death, it is erasure. They cover her with quicklime. It is a chemical designed to burn, to dissolve, to eat away flesh and bone until nothing remains but dust. They wanted to make sure that in 20 years, there would be nothing left to worship, nothing left to remember. But history is stubborn. 22 years later, the monarchy returns. They come looking for their queen. They dig through the earth. The lime did its work, but not completely. They find a few gray bones, and wrapped around them, a moldering garter belt. The only thing left to identify the woman who once owned everything. The revolution tried to paint her as a monster to justify their violence. They stripped her of her diamonds, her children, and her name. But in doing so, they stripped away the artifice. They forced us to look at the raw, terrified human underneath. In their attempt to erase her, they accidentally carved her story into stone. In the end, the Scarlet archives reveal the truth. The 76 days designed to destroy Marie Antoinette were the very days that made her immortal.